Bundy, Anomaly, or the norm? The need for fame versus humility. Now, this is a difficult subject for me to talk about, not because it is morbid or because it's Ted Bundy, but because it's more of an original thought, and when you have an original thought that you haven't heard before, you're in deep water, as opposed to The Last Jedi, where everybody's talked about it, or Beyonce, everybody's expressed the same thoughts about stupid pop culture things. Was Ted Bundy hot and a genius? Okay, because based on this documentary on Netflix, women are saying he was hot, and people are saying he was a genius. The type of person who thinks Ted Bundy was hot, or is hot, is the type of person who thinks fame is hot. The type of person who thinks Ted Bundy is hot, I would say, is the type of person who is like Ted Bundy. Because Ted Bundy thought what he was doing was hot, too. The type of person who thinks Ted Bundy was a genius is the type of person who thinks fame requires genius. The type of person who thinks Ted Bundy was a genius is also the type of person who is not as intelligent, who was an idiot compared to Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was actually a genius compared to them, because they're that stupid. I once heard of a spectrum. They said that on one side of the spectrum is the neurotic, and on the other side is the sadist. The neurotic is the kind of person who's terrified of pleasing everybody else and always worried about everybody else, always feels guilt, blah blah blah. The sadist doesn't care at all about what other people are thinking, only cares about pleasing themselves. They tend to be the rapists on the extreme side of it. The neurotic is the nerd who's constantly asking the girl, are you having a good time? Why are you looking at your watch? Are you not having fun? Do you like me? Do you think I'm attractive? The sadist doesn't give a shit whether you're having a good time. And that's why they're able to rape, because they don't care whether the girl enjoys it. Or the guy. I mean, Admiral Holdo probably would rape a guy. It's a Star Wars reference. So, on a similar spectrum, I would say a parallel spectrum would be humility versus the need for fame. Because a humble person is more concerned with whether they're hurting anybody or helping anybody. The person who needs fame doesn't give two shits about anybody. Kanye West. Mother Teresa would be the humble person, or somebody. Most people who are humble don't get famous because they don't give a shit. They just spend their time helping people, and they don't care about being thanked. There was a quote from the Tao Te Ching, which I thought was pretty good, which was that when an average person leads, people say we did it because of him. When a great leader leads, people say we did it ourselves, because the great leader takes no credit, inspires others, is so inspirational that they don't even realize he's inspiring them. They think that their inspiration, in fact, they get people to inspire themselves rather than inspire them. Blech. You get the idea. So genius, I would say genius and stupidity would be another parallel spectrum, where genius requires humility. It requires you to be able to take the chance of failing, to take the chance that you won't get any recognition, or to not even care whether you get recognition or money or anything, prestige. And stupidity is when you're obsessed with getting respect, prestige, girls, money, and all of that. There was a part in that bio on Netflix about Bundy where they said, we're writing a biography of you, Ted, and they told him about it, and Ted Bundy said, I don't care, write anything you want as long as it sells a lot of copies. So that was a bit of an insight for me. His need for fame was more important than the truth. And it reminds me of somebody like Kanye West. Do anything you can as long as you get well known for it. I would say Ted Bundy and Kanye West have a lot in common. The type of person who needs fame is a sadist. It's a shallow pursuit. Great people, good people, intelligent people prefer quality over quantity. I think Ted Bundy was the furthest thing from a genius. I think he was an idiot. I think he was probably pretty average. And that's the scary thing. I once knew somebody who bragged about how they were an anomaly. They said, oh, I'm not like anybody you've ever met. Nobody can figure me out. And they took pride in how unique they were. And they turned out to be a terrible person. I later told that person, the scariest thing about you is that you're average, that you're probably not an anomaly at all. And it's frightening, it's very frightening to imagine that evil, sadistic assholes are actually the norm, and that considerate, intelligent, courageous people are the anomalies. Seeing in the documentary, seeing Ted Bundy in court, people say how smart he was representing himself in court, but yet he screwed his whole trial up. I don't think he was intelligent. I don't think he was charismatic. I think he thought he was intelligent and charismatic. I think that was the only interesting thing about it, was that he thought he was charismatic. He thought he was going to win. He thought he would dazzle the court. And that reminds me of a lot of typical people. They think they're smarter than they are. They think they're making headway when they're getting nowhere. And I hate to say it, but I think most people are probably a lot more sadistic than we would like to think. Everybody's filled with lovely comments, loving comments all the time, but behind closed doors, what are they actually capable of? And what do they actually do? And what would they do if they had the opportunity? The difference between an adult and a child is that a child prefers taking than giving, and an adult prefers giving to taking. That's my quote. And in the spirit of that, I would ask, what kind of an asshole wants $1 million or 1 million fans? That's more about taking than giving. I marvel at the ability to take excessively from others. And again, another parallel to the spectrum of neurotic versus sadistic. Giving versus taking. Greed versus generosity. Willing to suffer rather than defer the suffering. Kanye's need for fame as opposed to a need to help other people achieve anything at all. I don't think it crosses his mind. Trump and his money, he defers his own suffering onto anybody at all inside. It simply takes an incredible amount of time to be knowledgeable or intelligent. Another great quote by me: "You weren't born stupid. It took years of laziness." I think psychopaths are like children. They were stunted from maturing. They're like children prefer taking than giving. I see a psychopath or a serial killer as somebody who, like a child who delights in the power that they feel pulling the wings off of flies. We all went through that phase when we were 4 and we realized we had power over something. And most of us matured past it and realized that's not what it's all about. But the serial killers never got over it, and they just found bigger flies to pull the wings off of. The need to hurt others, I would say, equals taking. Guilt and empathy requires the most basic awareness. I know one person in particular who recently reminded me how he only thinks of what he's getting immediately. And he doesn't mean to. He's just lacking that basic awareness of knowing that other people exist. I don't think serial killers like Ted Bundy for a second considered that other people actually exist. Much like children. Join me next time. Ring the bell and subscribe and comment, and tune in next time. You got to get the notification, because next time I'm talking about maggots and death and ugly deformed babies. Thanks.